Is AKI worth your Everstones? This is the question we're going to tackle in this video. Welcome back to Koki Gachas, and today we're going to take a look at the newest waifu in town, AKI, and we're going to go through her stats, her skills, her sub-skills rotation, pros and cons, as well as giving my verdict at the end of this video. So first we're going to take a look at AKI's stats, and on screen you can see this is AKI with an artifact being applied. And for comparison's sake, we are going to compare her to someone that is relatively similar to her in her role, which is Lindsay, and we're going to compare her stats to see how they fare, right? Although, just a disclaimer, Lindsay is being listed as a warrior while AKI is being listed as a striker, so definitely there are differences in this aspect. So first things first, we're going to touch on the attack, and attack is 63k for AKI, while for Lindsay it's 53k, so 10k more attack for AKI. But on the defense front, right, AKI only has 5,795, so almost 6k, while Lindsay has 16k defense. It's quite substantial difference when it comes to survivability when you take into account the HP wise. Also, AKI has 530k, while Lindsay has, if I'm not wrong, 560k. So the defense plus the HP stats make a big difference in survivability, and granted, AKI do have higher attack, so there's a trade-off there. For crit rate itself, 30% as well as crit damage 75%, quite standard, nothing too different. Accuracy 13, evasion 6, as well as speed being 100 of course. And this is the stats for AKI. I think that generally she is more of a glass cannon if you can think of that aspect, so definitely need a bit more investment when you look at this. And next we're going to go into her skills. We're going to take a look first at her sub skill, which is the double moon slice. So what this does is that she would throw her sword forward to the target, targeting the highest attack unit, and it will deal damage equals to at max 120%, and also have a mana reduction whereby it is at 500 every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, meaning it would deal 2,500 mana reduction, and this might not be cleansed at max. So this is quite strong, and also most importantly, she would do 2 times damage, meaning 240% if she crits. So this is quite substantial if she crits, and this skill is the skill that she used when she comes straight into battle when we talk about the rotation later. And this one can really help in eliminating a lot of the strong units whereby they rely on casting their skills. I would say Honglan is one of them. So Honglan being a beast also means that she's being countered by humans, and AKI can be a strong counter to Honglan in this aspect. So I really think that this skill is meant to counter Honglan. They really thought about it and wanted to introduce a unit to counter Honglan because Honglan is so strong, right? Next we have Flaming Flowers, and this is her second sub skill, and what it does is that she would deal at max 190% damage, as well as increasing her crit rate for 14 seconds for 35%. So this is quite substantial. 35% crit rate, especially for a unit that really requires crit rate, is very significant, and the uptime of this skill is absolutely important. If she doesn't have this skill on, I would think that her efficiency will decrease by a lot. And naturally, this skill also comes with a 2 times multiplier if you were to crit, because her whole kit revolves around critting. So she's going to do 380% damage on top of buffing her crit rate. I think this skill is one of the strongest skills I've seen for a sub skill. The damage wise can compare to some of the ultimate skills for some of the support units, like such as I think Jade, such as Naya, even Prim skill I think is roughly around the same. So I think this is quite substantial, especially with a high attack stat. It can deal a lot of damage and can pick up a lot of kills with this one skill. And third is her passive, Clear Mirror Still Water. So honestly, when you look at this, right, you might think that this is a very standard kind of a passive, but I think that this is her most important skill alongside her main skill as well, right, as well as the ultimate. But I think this is on top of the list because this provides her with so much survivability. What this does is that when she crits, she's going to gain this buff called Clear Water Still Water, and this reduces the damage she receives by 50%, as well as also giving an Inferno buff if she is being hit during this duration of having Still Water. So 6 seconds, but the good thing is that every time you crit, it refreshes, so there's no internal CD from what I've seen. You can have 100% uptime provided you crit all the time. So this is quite important, and having 30% attack increase is also very substantial, right, given the fact that her base stats is already so high. So another 30% would make the multiplier even higher, meaning that all her skills would have more potential to pick up kills, which is the main idea behind her kit. Having to kill people, having to snowball, and that is how she functions generally. So this is one of the most important skills, especially also for the survivability front, given that she has such a mediocre defense when compared to someone like a Lindsay, which also plays the assassination role, right? Next, we are going to touch on her main skill, Secret Sword. And her Secret Sword, Moon Slash, is she would cut through the enemy with lightning fast, unsheathing, dealing damage equals to 210% at base, and of course 2 times damage if she lands a crit. And also the damage is going to change to 250%, meaning if it were to crit, she would deal 500% damage for a main skill. And also if this skill kills the enemy, right, kills the target, she will restore 25% of her HP as well as gaining 2500 mana. So what you can think of this skill is that this is a finishing blow kind of a skill. If you're to use this, it kills off someone, she gains HP, meaning that she can go even longer with her survivability, especially like I mentioned, she has very poor survivability, so if she doesn't kill someone, it might be a problem for her to survive even with Clear Water, Still Water being active. So this is very important for her to kill someone, and also restores her mana. What this means is that she's going to get to her next Secret Sword, Moon Slash, even faster, right? So she can delete off multiple heroes through chaining her skills. And the next skill that we are going to talk about is her ultimate skill, which is also part of the chaining mechanics that she has. So ultimate skill is Profundity Crimson Blossom, and this is basically just like the main skill, but it deals 250% attack at base, and at max it should be 310%, and also of course 2 times damage if she lands a crit hit, meaning 620%. So this is super similar to a main skill, and there is also an effect whereby if she were to kill off an enemy, she's going to gain 45% of her HP. So definitely she's going to survive if she kills someone, likely going to go to max from what I've seen. And her mana recovery increases to 4500, instantly gains 4500 mana at max if she kills someone. So relying on kill, so the standard combo itself is likely just going to be main skill, kill someone, right, gains a bit of a mana gauge, use the ultimate, kill someone again, you're going to instantly have full mana again, and then you're going to cast a main skill and hopefully kill another someone, right? So 3 units gone in one combo. This is her main highlight, I would say, and it's super satisfying when you use it and you see that happening. So yeah, definitely something to take note of when you look at her. But if she doesn't kill someone, there might be some instances whereby you feel that she's very lackluster, or if she doesn't land a crit hit, then that is when the problem comes, right? Her multipliers are low, especially when you consider without crit hit, right? Only 250% or only 310%, likely not going to kill anyone. And especially if you don't land a crit hit, that means that your damage also not going to be the best. So yeah, it wouldn't be that good itself. So definitely depends a lot on RNG if you are not heavily invested or have the best keepsakes as well as the best support units around her. So yeah, this is something to take note of. And of course, we can't forget about her artifact skill, which is the Blood Moon. And this skill is tied to her Clear Water, Still Water, which is her passive. And what this does is it will increase crit damage by 10%. Of course, at Legendary Plus, it will have a 25% effect of crit damage increase, as well as having 15% speed increase. And the most important thing I think here is also that the immunity to crowd control is super important here, and I'm super glad they added this to her artifact skill, because we have seen in examples like a Valena, whereby when you have a hyper carry and you have a lot of CC, facing a lot of CC, she cannot perform. Like Valena is super susceptible to CC locked, and that is the reason why I think Valena is quite mediocre when compared to AKI, especially when AKI is also of a superior faction, so to speak. So I think if Valena have a form of CC, immunity to CC, she will be so much better. But yeah, AKI does have this, so this is the reason why I think AKI is a lot better, and this artifact skill really helps her a lot. But she does need to keep her Clear Mirror, Still Water active, so this is once again tied to her being able to land critical hits. So overall, you can see her whole kit revolves around landing critical hits. If she land critical hits, all smooth and dandy, everything is good. She'll be able to kill units much easier. She'll be able to use her main highlight, which is the snowball effect. Otherwise, if she doesn't land crit hit, likely she can't kill off units, likely she's going to tickle them, likely she's not going to be able to perform, and you're going to find her extremely mediocre. Now next, we're going to touch on her skills rotation, and you should be able to see on screen the full rotation of AKI being laid out for you. And what she does is that when she enters the battle, she's going to throw out a projectile, which is the Double Moon Slice, and this projectile is going to land on the highest attack unit and then reducing her mana through ticks, right? So they will not be able to charge up their main skill as fast as the mana ticks down. So this is a very good skill. Going to battle straight away neuters the enemy, and then next she's going to do one normal attack before going into her flaming flower skills, and this skill is super important because it gives her 35% crit rate for 14 seconds, super important. And once she does that, she's going to do 2 more normal attacks before rotating back to her sub skill 1, which is the double moon slice, and then going on to do 1 normal attack and then going to sub skill 2. So it's a very simple rotation, and the fact that she has a passive skills means that her sub skill 1 and sub skill 2 is going to see a lot more use. They are going to be used more often, meaning their impact would be even higher. So the reason why this is good rotation, I feel in general, is because the crit rate itself, the crit rate up, kind of ties in with around the timing that she's going to roughly get her own main skill up. So definitely if she uses her main skill during her crit rate up phase, or within that 14 seconds, she's going to likely land a crit hit based on her base stats, based on some Kip 6, based on some support units such as Memphi, unless opponent has a Prim, right? So that's the only problem I see. But generally, I have no too much problems with her rotation. I do think it's a quite efficient rotation and definitely ties in well with periodically reducing other people's mana, and also generally keeping a very high uptime on her crit rate up. Now, of course, as usual, I'm going to touch on some of the good teammates I have found so far for AKI, and this is like the first impressions. I'm going to come up with something in-depth, like team building, specific lineup subsequently in another video, but right now we're just going to touch on the teammates that I think is good from a first day standpoint, right? So we are going to first look at Memphi, and Memphi is a very good teammate because of one reason, and that is her multi-dimensional analysis. It increases the chance of opponents to take crit hit by 30%, so definitely for 18 seconds that is going to be a very good opportunity for AKI to have her clear water, still water uptime go up. And also if she were to use the main skill during this time itself, also there is going to be a defense down effect from her artifact, right? So it's a two-prong, right? Knowing the opponent's defense as well as providing a higher chance for AKI to land crit rate. And most of the teammates that you're going to see me mention do definitely like revolve around AKI being a crit dependent unit. So Memphi, definitely a top dog. Next on the list is Jiho, and the reason why she's good is a multitude of reasons. The first reason why she's good is because she provides survivability for AKI, I do believe, and her sub skills definitely heals a lot, as well as removing debuffs, right? I do think that if AKI were to have like minus accuracy debuff, she's going to have a very bad time, especially because she's not even able to land the normal hits, normal attack, meaning that her uptime for clear water, still water is going to be decreased. Not to mention if she were to miss her main skill or ultimate, it's going to be a very bad day for your AKI and for your battle specifically, right? So having Jiho is good for the cleansing effect, as well as also having Jiho because of her artifact skill, which grants crit rate up. Although the impact of this crit rate up is not as significant given the fact that it's a very low crit rate up. At base it's only 5% and it only jumps in 2.5% each time. So I don't think that this is going to be as significant, but every single percent of crit rate definitely helps AKI. So I do think that the survivability first and the crit rate aspect second makes Jiho a good teammate for AKI. The next unit on the list is Vivi, and it goes without saying why Vivi is so good in this game, and the reason why is because of her speed. And I think that this is especially relevant for someone like AKI, which is also why I think that her artifact skill, her artifact itself needs to be upgraded to Legendary Plus for her maximum potential, given the fact that it increases her speed. So why is speed so relevant? It's because of her second sub skill, which is the one Flaming Flowers, which gives her 35% crit rate up for 14 seconds. So if you have higher speed, you are able to keep the uptime of this skill even higher, meaning you're going to be able to almost have 100% crit all the time if you were to have the right Kip 6 as well as the right support, right? So Vivi is definitely one of those units that is quite key. Of course, if she's at Legendary Plus, then maybe you don't need Vivi as desperately, but without Legendary Plus upgrade on AKI, I think her uptime on her crit rate skill is not the best, and especially when you consider potentially being CC'd, right? Although the clear water, still water does help it, but if she doesn't have that and she gets CC'd, then it's very likely that the downtime will be increased even further. So Vivi, very strong unit as always, a very good support. Now next on the list is Honglan, and I'm sure it's not surprising to you guys that Honglan is going to be on this good teammates list, and the reason is very simple and multiple fold as well, same as Jiho. I think the passive is just too broken, and this passive basically helps AKI solve her problems specifically, right? When it comes to survivability, when you decrease the opponent's speed, she's going to be able to survive better, given that the opponents are going to deal out less damage overall. And also the fact that the evasion decrease is very important to AKI. I want to stress this time and time again. AKI needs to hit even her normal attacks. If she doesn't hit her normal attack, there is likely to be downtime on her Clear Water, Still Water, and you want it to be almost 100% uptime on Clear Water, Still Water, and also on Inferno, right? So very important that AKI doesn't have misses, and if she were to miss, especially on her main skill, ultimate skill, is basically you just need to retry. But if you are playing in PvP and you miss, I don't think you'll be able to win the PvP match unless you're severely like outclassing the opponent when it comes to levels and gear, right? So I do think that not missing is super important. So for PvP, maybe I will consider just perma sticking Honglan with AKI, but it's up to debate how I'm going to come up with a team for that, right? Especially with Champions Arena coming, we do need to craft some good PvP teams. So I do think Honglan very, very strong. As always, right, Honglan is good on any team, and like I've mentioned, once again, she's proven to be a problem solver a lot for the issues that we can see on AKI. And lastly, we have Lindsay. I know this might come as a surprise to some of you guys, but I do think that in some circumstances, maybe there's no need for going for any healers, right? You can double down on the DPS units, and AKI alone might not be able to kill off a unit from full, right? And if she doesn't kill off a unit from full, it's going to produce some problems given the fact that she's going to rotate back to a main skill or rotate into an ultimate much less frequently. So that's why Lindsay comes in, and I do think that Lindsay can come in the role as a sub tank. Also, if you want to use her as straight DPS, it's also possible. I would think that sticking Lindsay with full evasion set and then putting her in front might be a good choice to alleviate some of the AKI's survivability problems while also providing additional DPS. And the good thing about the Lindsay is that her main skill also targets the highest attack unit. So you can first use Lindsay's main skill to weaken the enemy first, and then you have AKI's main skill go in or AKI's ultimate skill go in, and then that would result in a kill for sure. And of course, with the kill itself, you can chain into your combo, right? That is what makes AKI so satisfying as well as so strong, like the snowballing effect. So that's why I don't agree that some people say that Lindsay will straight up be replaced by AKI. I do think they can be complementary. Of course, if you were to have one or the other, maybe they would duplicate a bit of roles from that aspect. However, having them together is not a detriment. I think I've started using them together on Gates level, like I think level 120 plus, like 120 to 25. I've been using Lindsay plus AKI together. So I do think that there is potential there, but granted that my Lindsay is not as strong and I haven't like optimized the Kip 6 yet, I think that there is some more room for improvement when it comes to these two being teammates. Now, after we've seen her stats, her skills, her skill rotations, as well as some of the teammates that AKI needs, I'm going to touch on the pros and cons in summary. So pros wise, AKI is a freaking hyper beast carry. If you have her ascended to decent levels, she is going to hyper carry like no other can, and the CC immunity also helps it a lot. And if you can really invest in her such that she has super high crit rate, I think she's going to demolish a lot of teams out there, and the snowballing effect cannot be undermined. And next, another pro is that she has also like sort of like complementary to the fact that she's a hyper carry, right? The reason why she's hyper carry is because her main skill and sub skills have ridiculous skilling as well as ultimate, but the fact is that her main skill and sub skills alone are very strong. So even in the PvP aspect, even without using her ultimate skill, you can still feel the impact of AKI if you have her, of course, critting, right? So the basis is on her critting, and if she crits, she's going to be super good. Main skill, sub skills multipliers are off the charts can compare to a lot of ultimate skills of other units. So definitely super high DPS and can also one-shot a lot of units. I've seen her one-shot Petras, I've seen her one-shot Adrians, even Chloe I've one-shot with ultimate. So I think it's quite ridiculous how much DPS she chunks out. And if she were to be able to kill off units, she can definitely increase her survivability also. So yeah, that is one huge pro of having a AKI. However, she also does have her cons, right? And the first things I would say is that she, like what I mentioned, she needs high levels of investments in her artifact, in her origin to make her really pop off. So if you don't have that, since her kit revolves around killing off unit, taking on last hits, if you don't take off last hits, right, if you don't have her at high ascensions, she's not going to perform this role to her maximum capability. She's going to feel very lackluster, especially if you have her at epic plus, even legendary plus. I I don't think she can carry that much unless you, of course, the CP deficit is not as high. And another problem of hers is survivability. So this ties hand in hand with the investment problem, right? However, I think this is also more relevant. Even if you have high ascensions, even if you have decent investment, I still feel that her survivability might be an issue. Her defense is extremely low. The only reason why she can even survive is because she managed to pick off kills, right? But even then, if you were to leave her with like 5 units and she's the only unit, maybe she can kill off 3 of the units, but can she survive to her next main skill to kill off the last 2 units? I wouldn't think that that is a certainty. So the survivability side is really going to be quite problematic. So we have to find ways to improve her survivability to put her in the right team so that she can really function well. And of course, as usual, we're going to give her ratings for different game modes based on our understanding of AKI so far. And this time around, I'm going to give ratings based on high ascension and low ascension. Maybe moving forward, I also do so for other units. So when it comes to PvE, I'm going to give her a 3 out of 5 for low ascension and 4.5 out of 5 for high ascension. The reason why is very simple. I've mentioned multiple times, like survivability being an issue. She needs more stats, she needs more investment, she needs to kill off unit. At low ascension, she's not going to work that well, which is why I give her a 3 out of 5 for low ascension. And for high ascension, needless to say, once she can perform all these roles, she can become a beast. So moving on, we are going to touch on PvP. And for PvP wise, I do think that AKI, even at lower ascensions, can definitely do decently, but not as good, of course, compared to her high ascension self, right? For low ascensions, I'm going to give her PvP rating of 3.5 out of 5. The reason being that her main skill is very relevant compared to like other units whereby the ultimate skill is their highlight, right? I do think that her main skill as a sub skills are super strong, so she was going to be relevant in PvP regardless. And minusing mana is very important, especially in PvP, given the fact that deficit isn't that huge, right? In PvP, you can definitely pull off a lot more wins with low ascension units compared to in the Battlefront, whereby units will straight off get melted off or your units will tickle the enemies. But for high ascensions, I would say I will give AKI a 5 out of 5. I think she's going to be a super beast in PvP, and we are going to see the teams that we can come up with. And definitely, I'm looking forward to having those 1v5 situations with AKI in PvP. Now, lastly, we have the boss aspect, and I do think that for this, a unified rating should be justified because it doesn't really make that much of a difference since there's nothing for you to kill, right? In the boss, you can't really kill it off per se. That's why I think I'm going to give her a general rating of 4 out of 5. I do think that AKI is somewhat like Lindsay, but I do feel that Lindsay might be even better than AKI when it comes to bossing. And if I were to give a rating to Lindsay right now, I would probably give her 4.5 out of 5. And for AKI, I think she's slightly on the lower side, given that her kit, the mana regen itself, relies on her killing off units, right? So without that aspect, I think she's a lot less attractive compared to Lindsay, which at 20 stacks definitely guarantees a crit on her ultimate. So it might be better to use Lindsay, and you can definitely use them two both together, right? However, I would say that compared to Lindsay, she is slightly more lacking when it comes to bossing, I feel. Now, of course, at the end of it, the big question still remains, is AKI worth your Everstones? And for that, I would say the verdict is generally yes, but really it depends, because the reason why I say that is very justified in the fact that AKI does need high ascension. If you cannot bring her to Origin, you can only pull like 100 times before her banner ends, then probably she isn't the best pull for you. Given the fact that you can't bring her to high ascensions, you're probably not going to use her in Battlefront progression as well. She's not like Honglan, outright broken at low ascension, high ascension, so I don't think it's as straightforward as Honglan. You definitely have to look at what problems you have on your accounts when it comes to progression. Do you need a strong gates unit? Then AKI can be the human gate carry for sure. Do you need general progression in Battlefront? Then I think AKI can still do that, but to a lesser extent to other carries, right? And also, do you have the investments to be able to bring her to Origin, and not just Origin, but her artifact as well to Legendary Plus? Can you do that in the near future? If you don't have enough resources to invest in AKI, I would say that she's going to really disappoint you and you are going to hate yourself for pulling her. But in general, I would say try to save up 2 weeks you have, right? Try to get her to Origin. You are going to see her shine super brightly like a diamond. So of course, with my verdict, you know that I went all in and pulled for AKI, and the reason why is also because AKI is super strong in PvP. And why is PvP relevant? You have to check out this video where I touch on the changes coming to Champions Arena. I'll see you guys over there. This is Cocky Gachas signing off.